And still with me now in studio to debate this is Yariv Oppenheimer, project director of the two-state coalition at the Geneva Initiative and a former member of the Meretz Executive Committee, as well as Yehuda Glick, former Israeli parliament member for the Likud party and president of the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation. Thank you both for staying with us after the break. Israel doesn't really have a constitution, Yariv, so why is there so much backlash over these laws that essentially change what's known as the basic law?
This is why it's such a sensitive issue, because we don't have a constitution. But what we are seeing is a coalition that is doing everything in order to destroy the basic values of the democracy and the basic laws of democracy. Today it's to allow someone that was actually convicted to become a minister and to change the law specifically for him. And this is, as you said, a basic law. This should be the constitution, but they are doing it very fast because of some political need. It's not a real discussion and a real debate about the substance of this law. It's all about politics, small politics. But I'm afraid about other things. For example, the law that they are promising to pass forward that will allow businesses to discriminate people because of religious reasons. This is totally undemocratic. This is totally anti-liberal agenda. This is not the Likud that I know, and this is maybe the extreme faction of the Zionist, the National Zionist. This is a government. The future government is really threatening the basic elements of democracy. We are not arguing about policy. We can argue about policy. We are arguing about the coexistence of democracy, and this is why it's so sensitive, and this is why we feel that this is Netanyahu really lost it, and he's giving away all the basic elements of democracy to these very radical right-wing religious forces.
So it was actually a question that was posed to me by Danny Danon's spokesperson, and it really resonated with me. And I'd like to ask you the question as someone who was part of the Likud party. They say that, you know, what happened during COVID, that discrimination is discrimination. Doctors as well as businesses would not serve people that had not been vaccinated. Surely this is the same kind of thing happening now, just on the basis of religious belief?
So again, once again, I want to tell my dear friend Yariv to stop panicking. And democracy, the left don't have a monopoly on democracy. And yes, it's small politics, just moving things around so that they can really rule the government and they won't have to be bothered by every other day something that will be trying to knock them down. They want the stability. For 3 years, we didn't have stability. Now, finally, the 3-year-long election campaign is over. There's going to be a government. And the left are panicking. And once again, to your question, there's no law that they're mentioning that promotes discrimination. You're not allowed to discriminate. But we are believing in liberal values, and a liberal person has a right to do with his business whatever he wants. If I'm on an apartment, I want to rent it out, and you want to turn it into a bakery, and I say, no, I don't want to rent it out to you for a bakery. I want you to live there. So am I discriminating against bakers?
No.
Excuse me.
If someone will not give you
learn not to interrupt.
Yeah.
If I have a hall that I have it for weddings, and I decide I did not want to have homosexual weddings there, it's perfectly liberal. I'm not discriminating against the person. I'm saying I do not want my hall to serve for this case. It's crazy. There's a Christian-owned hall in Israel, Yad HaShmona. They had to close down because they refused to have a homosexual wedding at the place. I think this is crazy for anybody who's liberal. You're allowed to do with your business whatever you want. It's not discriminating against persons. It's discriminating against what I want my property to be used for. If I want my property to be used for a home, it can be used for a home. If I want my property to be closed on Shabbat, I'm not discriminating against Shabbat. I want this. These are the rules for my property. That's called liberal values. Don't tell me what to do with my property.
You have your own rights about your own property. But, for example, if someone will not give you service because they are not giving services to redheads,
but that's not the situation.
Exactly the
that's
issue.
Not the issue.
It will be illegal. And according to the new law, you can say, my religious belief is that redheads are not should not be served. And that's it. This is something, and we should look at the big context. And the context is that the most LGBTQ rights party in the Knesset, Noam Party, is part of the coalition, and they got a very significant role in the education ministry. It's not just another law. This is what you are standing for. You are standing for canceling the basic principle of equality and making it a more Jewish religious state, much less democratic, with no equality, with Jewish supremacy. This is what you are aiming for, and the Arabs are under your attack, and now the LGBTQ and the secular people will be. This is what we are facing, and with all due respect, even if this government was elected, this is something that it's in democracy cannot be done.
We are so much. I think one point that one more
LGBTQ. Is this only targeting
listen, this is the situation. We are so much discriminating against LGBTs that apparently the highest level position an LGBT in Israel has ever received is getting from this government. We will have probably the Speaker of the Knesset will be an LGBT. We're discriminating against. No, we're not discriminating against anything. And this claim, if I would be a vegan, and you want to use my knife, and I tell you don't use my knife to slaughter an animal, am I discriminating against you because you are not vegan? No, I want my property to not be used.
I will give you an example. You can choose whether you want to be a vegan or not. You cannot choose whether you want to be a straight or gay. But you cannot choose whether you are red or black hair. Or you are Jew or Arab.
No,
this is something that you cannot choose. And this is exactly the difference between...
It's not discriminating against the person.
No, it's against the
against
person.
an action.
No, it's against the person.
And this is a demagogic claim. They're not discriminating against anybody. As I said again, we're probably going to have a Speaker of the Knesset who's LGBT.
The members of the Knesset, they are speaking out loud.
I want to interrupt you for a second, gentlemen. I want to interrupt you for a second because I think it's important for context that we let our audience know what you are referring to is Amir Ohana, who is an openly gay politician as part of the Likud party, could set as expected to become the next Knesset Speaker who ends up setting legislation as well as laws and advancing the agenda of the coalition. Now, my next question moves to the Likud party regarding Netanyahu. I've mentioned this a few times that he's had this balancing act of appeasing his coalition partners, but also putting people in ministerial portfolios of the skill and experience. The question is, has he failed to do that or did he succeed?
Look, we had in the past government, we had somebody who had 6 seats, which is less than 5% of the current Knesset. He was prime minister. And I think that was the major danger to Israeli democracy. And today, Netanyahu is playing according to the rules of the Israeli system. It's a parliamentary system. I don't think it's the greatest system. I think there are better systems. But he is playing in those rules. He left more than half of the portfolios for his party, which had 32 seats of the 64, which is exactly 50%. And yes, he's giving power to people that Yariv does not agree with their agenda. And Yariv, as a democratic person, has to learn to be tolerant and to respect the fact that
Believe
people
me,
who totally don't agree with...
Most of my life, I'm in the opposition. I know how to show tolerance.
You don't
but I have zero tolerance to
people who are
anti-democratic regime. And this is what we are maybe facing. And I have to be honest, I never voted for Netanyahu. But I thought that Netanyahu can manage the both and he can sail away without harming it too much. And when I see this next coalition, I have to tell you, he lost it. He lost it. He gave away everything to the most radical political allies. Everything.
For what?
I don't see even one thing.
Power? Why did he give it away?
He didn't give it away.
There are 2 reasons for that. The first one, that he would like to gain power and to be prime minister and to remain a prime minister, and he is afraid that they will not allow him. And second, we cannot ignore the fact that he is under legal trial, and he needs them in the future time in order maybe to get out of it.
Let me offer you another
part
option.
of the equation.
Let me offer you another option. Maybe the option is, and maybe you don't know.
That he become Kahana supporter?
No, but I have another option.
Yeah.
You know why he didn't give your party? Because they were not elected. He gave party seats and he gave power to those who were elected.
In the previous time, he was aiming to the opposition, telling Ehud Barak to come and Tzipi Livni to come and Buzzi Herzog to come. This time he's not doing that.
That's not true.
And he's going with the Kahana people and he's giving them everything. Give me one example about something that Netanyahu said no. One thing.
Yariv, be honest. be honest, right now, of the other 56 people in the Knesset, they don't want to be in his party. So he has the only option he has is to give a government of 64. He gave each party power according to proportional to what their party is. So if Gantz that refuses to be part of the government, he can't come against and say, how did you give party? He put together parties. This is the way. This is the game. This is the political game.
You know that since last night, there is a new situation in which the most sensitive, delicate issues regarding settlements, Palestinian, it's about security, it's about the international relationship between Israel and the world. The most sensitive issues are being taken away from the Prime Minister and given it to Smotrich, the most radical person in the government. Why Netanyahu is giving away his authority as the Prime Minister?
Why did Lapid give Bennett his Prime Minister?
He's weak because
I want to thank both of you very much, Yariv Oppenheimer, Yehuda Glick. Thank you so much for being here. We can see the passion as per always.
I love him so much. He's my best friend, let me tell you.
I'm looking to hear you